Hey guys, what's up? Thanks so much for stopping by. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a follow-up of the blush tag video that I did recently. Just in case if you guys did miss that, I will go ahead and link it here. In that video, I just kind of pulled out products that I wanted to spotlight throughout my blush collection, whether it was like most used, most underrated, most overrated. But I did that just because I thought it would be a great kickstart to kind of just decluttering other sections of my collection. Blush is something that I had so much of, and to be honest, spoiler alert, I didn't do quite as well as I thought I would, but since the initial declutter, I have gone through and started to pull out even more because I realized, you know what, Dana, no, you really aren't using this one. But at the same time, it did kind of like reignite my love for some other blushes. Let's just go ahead and get right into the video. I hope you guys enjoy. Let me know if you guys do want to see more of these like tag videos for each little section of my makeup collection and then the declutters that come after. Let's do it. Okay, so here is a quick overview of all the blushes that we are working on today. Clearly I have a weakness when it comes to NARS blush palettes. I just have always loved them. I do still have my original Danna palette too. That's just put away because it's sticky and gross. This is everything that we are going to be working on today. So I thought we would go ahead and start off with just my Z palettes full of single blushes. These are mainly made up of ColourPop, these three larger ones. Makeup Geek is the majority of it. And then we do have several MAC blushes here. These are just kind of my more like mauve, everyday type of blushes. This one here is Emphasize. Then we have more of your pale pinks, and then this is probably one of my favorites, just kind of peachy orange shades. I know you're probably looking at this one and it's like, Dana, that looks like a lilac bubblegum, but something about this one during the spring and summer months on is just so cute on the cheeks. Another favorite is Makeup Geek Puppy Love. If you love just like a good natural neutral tone blush that goes with so many different eye looks, whoops, not even frame. This one here is perfect. So these are the shades that I decided to keep. I know there's still so many, but I did pull out 5 that I am removing from my collection. I feel like I could get rid of Emphasize because I know I do have that in a palette. So maybe I can get rid of that one, and we may be able to dwindle this palette down a little bit more. But for these two, I know everything else in here are keepers because I do reach for these, but who knows, maybe we'll revisit this one later on in the video. Now moving on to these 2 single bins. These are just full of miscellaneous blushes. I thought I would go ahead and break it down by brand, starting off with these Too Faced blushes. I've gotten rid of several of these before in the past, but I'm thinking I can get rid of a few more. So if you've never seen these blushes from the Tutti Frutti collection before, they're so cute. Not only the outer packaging, but just the small details inside. So each little palette has a different fruit that it corresponds with. So this one I think is peach. So there's a little peach on it. You have a little watermelon, a papaya. So I did quickly do a few swatches for y'all. Down here we have the papaya, the peach, and then the watermelon. To be honest, the papaya and the peach look so similar, but I do prefer the highlight a little bit more in the papaya. Plus the outer packaging is cuter. So I know I can get rid of this. I was kind of thinking about keeping the watermelon one, although the blush isn't my favorite. On camera right now, they look identical. But I love the highlighter in here. But I was thinking, I wonder how similar that would look to Wet n Wild Hummingbird Hype. It's pretty darn close where it's that peachy coral vibe. So I do feel confident getting rid of this one too. So hey, not too shabby. Keeping 1, getting rid of 2. Okay, next up we have a couple of the Benefit box blushes. I used to be so obsessed with these. I've gotten rid of quite a few throughout the years, but in my recent blush tag video, I had mentioned that Coralista isn't even made anymore, which is crazy to me because this is definitely the best box blush in my opinion that Benefit has made. So this is a definite keeper, as well as Dallas. But to be honest, Rockateur kind of reminds me of a downgraded version of MAC Worm Soul. So I don't feel like I have to have this one anymore, but these 2 are keepers. Then we have a couple of the L'Oreal blushes. We have Fantastical and Bashful. Fantastical is one of my most used drugstore blushes along with the Milani ones. Bashful looks boring in the packaging, but it's actually really pretty on. And this is where I struggle because I like having drugstore options. So this one for sure, I know I want to keep Fantastical. Maybe we'll put Bashful in the maybe pile. Finally, for this first bin here, we have a Tom Ford blush in Savage. That's a definite keeper. I had raved about Hummingbird Hype in my blush tag video. I thought it was discontinued, but it's actually still available on the Wet n Wild site. If you are looking just for an amazing blush topper that's like a highlighter in one, this one is incredible. Definitely an underrated blush. And then this I just have to keep mainly because of the packaging. I was such a Sailor Moon freak when we lived in Okinawa. This color isn't even my vibe, but I have to keep it. Here we have the Buxom Wanderlust blushes. So starting over from this side, we have Mykonos, Dolly, this is one of my favorites, Seychelles, and then Goa. I really like these three shades here, but to be honest, I don't really ever reach for this one. This would be beautiful during the fall, but I have lots of shades similar to this, and to be honest, probably similar to the other three in my NARS palette. So I'm gonna let this one go, but we'll be keeping these three here. If you've never tried these before, they're definitely worth checking out, especially if you're someone like me who likes blushes that just give off this subtle sheen to them without having actual glitter particles. These are so beautiful. We have a few blushes from the Balm ColourPop. This was the Shayla collab Makeup Forever, and then a few 3CE blushes. This I don't think is made anymore. I can't ever get rid of this. This is a a Sephora blush in Guava Glow. They used to make these duos where you get more of this kind of like shimmery satin blush on the side and then another baked blush on the other, right? Guava Glow. I was obsessed with this blush for such a long time, so it's something that I just have to keep. But whenever I look at the Balm ones, while I love Hot Mama, this I used to use all the time, but it kind of reminds me of some of the L'Oreal blushes, so I feel like I can pass on that. Cabana Boy is another one I know I can get rid of. This is one of their dual blushes. Both of them are very shimmery. I actually am not the biggest fan of Dawn, but this one here is so beautiful just as that blushy cheek topper. Do you see that glow? So this I want to keep. I'm still kind of messing with the 3CE ones, plus this is one that I can use as an eyeshadow as well. This pink one from ColourPop is another one I can get rid of. So this is the discard pile. I do really like this shade here though. We're gonna keep that. And then the Makeup Forever Trio. This is one that I do like to travel with during the summer months. So for that bin, we're just gonna be passing on these three here. These are the rest of my singles. From here, we can move on to palettes. So right off the bat, looking at the Marc Jacobs ones, as I mentioned in that blush tag video, the only ones I really ever use are Flesh and Fantasy and then Lines and Last Night. I don't reach for them that much. These are just the two that I reach for more out of all of these. These were definitely overhyped and overrated. I just feel like they look a little bit dry on my cheeks. I don't even know if I want to keep both of these. I do. See, no, that one I can get rid of. So I think I'm just gonna hold on to Flesh and Fantasy. Like I said, out of all of them, this was the most used. The Charlotte Tilbury Chic to Chic, or Cheek to Chic in the Climax. I do love this one. I'd mentioned the NARS Orgasm Blush. I use this more as eyeshadow. I have that though, I'm sure, in several NARS blush palettes. So I really don't need the single. Plus I know Laura loves this blush, so I'm gonna put that aside. Then we have one of the Kevyn Aucoin Fusion blushes. Look how beautiful this one is. I love this coral gradient. This one is in Sunset, so I do want to keep that as well. Then I have 5 of the Laura Mercier blushes. Peach and Sangria are some of my all-time favorites. I do love Fresco, I love Rosé. I don't reach for Strawberry quite as much. So Strawberry can go, Fresco, I love Rosé, I love Sangria. These are so pretty. Peach though is definitely my most used. So we'll keep 4. Then we have this product, I think this is JCat Beauty. Yeah, it's one of their blush mallows with one of my hairs. This is in Thank You Berry Mochi. It kind of has the texture of like the ColourPop blushes. Honestly, I forget about this one because I normally keep these type of blushes in my cream blush drawer, but it's been sitting in here and I haven't gone for it, so I think it's just time to let that one go. However, this is a cream blush that I never forget about. This is the Bare Minerals Blush in Blurred Buff. This doesn't look impressive swatched, but I promise on your cheeks, it is so, so beautiful. As you can see, I have a pretty big dent in mine. A little bit of this goes a long way. And if you're someone with like really oily cheeks and you have issues with keeping powder blushes on, I would recommend trying out a cream blush. I love this formula. Next up, we have the Too Faced, what were these called? Love Flush blushes. I got rid of all the other shades. I only kept I Will Always Love You. Something about the more pink shades in this collection were incredibly powdery and just sat on top of my skin in a gross way. This one, however, just gave off that in that really glowy look that I just love. So this was the only one that I decided to keep. Then we have the, not Laura Mercier, Milani Rose blushes. These are some of my all-time favorite blushes from the drugstore. My most used is Awakening Rose. I never really ever reach for Coral Cove anymore. So I think that one, it's just time to let it go. I have this Holiday MAC Duo. This has Whisper of Guilt in it, one of my all-time favorite highlighters. Then we have a few NARS singles over here. This one came from the Stephen Klein collection. The highlighter is something that I use more on my inner corner rather than like all over my face, because as you can see, it has more of this taupey silver look. But the blush is really interesting. It's just this really pretty kind of red burnt terracotta shade. So I would like to keep this one. This, however, I kept, I think, mainly for the packaging. It's in the shade Loves Me. I'm gonna pass on that. And we have a few more NARS singles. We have Intensely. This came from the Man Ray collection. It's almost like an orange sherbet shade. Cactus Flower. Do you guys remember this one? This is so old, but I still use it. Don't judge me. Okay, then we have Free Soul and Fetish Size. Honestly, Free Soul should go in my highlight drawer. This is another one that I use kind of like as a highlight blush topper. And then Fetish Size, this is almost like a powder version of Cactus Flower. So those three are gonna stay. Then we have a few Becca blushes. The only one I really ever use these days is Tiger Lily. So I'm gonna keep this and then get rid of, I think this is Dahlia. Yeah, Dahlia and Snapdragon. Would you look at that? We got a whole empty section here. So much room for activities. Next bin here, we have all of my MAC single blushes. Most of these are probably going to be staying. Sweet as Cocoa, if you've never used this one, this is so beautiful during the cooler months. It's just, it's almost like pumpkin spice in a blush. I know, so basic, but it's beautiful. So Sweet as Cocoa, Tenderling, Warm Soul, those are definite keepers. We have Fever, I do like that one, but Fleet Fast, I don't really ever use this, so that can go. Then we have I'm Not Blushing. This came from the Patrick Starr collection, and Seen to Be Seen. I love these mineralized blushes, so those are keeps. Then over here, Laura Geller blushes. You guys already know, if you've been with me for a while, these are just my babies. Sunswept is one of my all-time favorites. I also love Tropic Hues, or no, this one's Tropic Hues. Pink Grapefruit, these will forever be in my collection. This is a bronzer from Almay, but I use it as a blush. This is actually so, so pretty. Then we have the Lorac Baked Matte Satin Blush in Hollywood. This is so old, but this was like one of the first products I think I ever purchased from a CCO. Do you guys remember those? And I still really like it. This came from the Wet n Wild Pac-Man collection, and I didn't think I would be that crazy about this because it is very pink, but this is another product that I like, kind of like Hummingbird Hype, where it's just a good blush glowy type of topper product. And then speaking of the same type of thing, we have NARS Orgasm in a loose version. Next up, we have blush palettes that aren't NARS blush palettes. I'm so annoyed at myself. Okay, so for Jouer, with these, I know I only want to keep one, and it's Passion. I love this duo so much. This orange is so beautiful. Darling is pretty, but it's just very, very soft. So I feel like somebody else would get more use out of this. Then we have their new Champagne and Macaroons collection. I would normally only keep this one here, but my single of Citrine broke, and Citrine is one of my all-time favorite highlighters. It is so, so beautiful. Suntan is really pretty too, but these blushes here I'm just kind of so-so about, but I feel like I have to keep it because I finally have this highlighter back. The Becca Chrissy Teigen collab, holy cow, I freaking love this palette. Everything in here is so beautiful. This is the only one that I really don't reach for. However, those other three products I've used plenty of times, so I do want to keep that. This one should come as no surprise. I already have Pink Grapefruit, but I don't have Bora Bora or Honeysuckle in full size. The e.l.f. Modern Metals blush palette, this is really good too. I don't know if this is still made though. I'll have to check. If it's not, then I feel like I could get rid of it, but I do like it. I'm doing terrible right now. Sweet Peach Glow, I love. I hate the scent, but I love all three products in here. The highlighters in here are actually really nice and creamy. I have used this in a video, I think 2 or 3 times already. It is very, very pretty, but I feel like I've kept so many blush palettes already where I wouldn't be super sad if this one wasn't in my collection anymore. So, wow, I only got rid of 2 right there. That was terrible because I know I'm gonna suck donkey balls at decluttering these NARS palettes. All right, so NARS Exposed is a no-brainer. This is one of my most reach for blush palettes. Now it's kind of dwindling it down from these here. All right, I absolutely suck. Out of all my larger NARS palettes, I only got rid of one. This is the Free Lover palette. It's beautiful, but it didn't speak to me quite as much as the other palette. So yeah, only one goner from there. Moving on to like my trios and I guess quad blushes right off the bat. This is a keeper. This is another keeper. The center shade here, I absolutely love. I do like the new Orgasm X collection, mainly because of the highlighter. This is another one that I do know I like. This, however, the packaging, I honestly mainly kept this because of the packaging. I loved this holiday collection. This is just the Orgasm Infatuation collection. So there's Laguna Orgasm and then the Orgasm highlighter. I have these in singles and in other palettes, so I can get rid of this. I am going to miss the packaging. That's what NARS does the best with holiday collections. They're just so beautiful, but I don't need it. I do like this one for traveling just because you can create such a simple eye look and then you have a blush and highlighter. Oh, wow. I am sucking so bad at this, but I like it. I like it. Okay. All right. I decided since I was so bad about the other ones, I am going to pass on the deeper of the Jouer palettes. So we're gonna get rid of that. Went back through my singles and decided I needed to be a little bit more strict. So I'm gonna get rid of American Beauty Rose just because anytime I reach for these blushes, I always either go for the Awakening Rose or Romantic Rose. It's hardly ever this one. So this can go. And since I have like the Wet n Wild blushes and then the Too Faced ones that I kept, I have plenty shimmery blush options there. So I can get rid of that. The Pac-Man one, this was limited edition, and I showed the loose NARS powder with that. I gravitate towards that more than this. While this is really pretty, if I were to use this in a video, you couldn't even get it right now. So it needs to go. Ugh. I did terrible with palettes. I wanted to do better, but I look at these and I just can't. I love them. I love them all. Here's an overall look of all the blushes that I'm getting rid of. I really wanted to do better with the NARS palettes, but I don't know. I just couldn't do it. Maybe in the next couple of days, I'll look again, reassess. But for now, here's everything that's going. In here, this was what was full of the Makeup Geek and NARS highlighters, then just various other single blushes, as well as a few palettes. So a pretty good start. We'll see if I can do even more. Here's a look at what my blush drawer looks like now. This is so much better because before there were blushes all crammed back there. Here's that NARS Dan Mori palette I talked about before. It's so beat up, but that was my first NARS blush palette ever. I just have to keep it. So we have the NARS larger palettes, smaller palettes, then just various other palettes from Too Faced, Laura Geller, the Z palettes, my singles. This is so much better. While there's still a ton, I like to have variety, okay? All right, so there you have it. There is my blush declutter. I really wanted to do better with those NARS blush palettes, but NARS blushes and Laura Geller blushes are just some of my all-time favorites. And I think with the NARS blush palettes, there definitely is more of like a collector's mentality behind them. Don't get me wrong, I use them like crazy, but I just love having them. And then I did mention earlier on in the video that I was going to share my cream blushes with y'all. I went through them and these were the only two that I got rid of. I first used the Maybelline Cheek Heat. I think I got it to work, but since I've been using so many cream blushes lately, I just realized this does not pack a punch or just doesn't really hold its worth in my drawer in comparison to like the Flower Beauty one, the Grande one. I had to go in with several layers to get any sort of, well, not any sort, but get the level of pigmentation that I want. So I just don't think it's really worth keeping anymore. I think one of my friends that maybe have more of a fair skin tone or more of just like an everyday natural look will get more use out of this. And then the other cream blush is actually more of a shade thing than formula. This is one of the Physicians Formula multi-color sticks in the shade Soft Pink. Unfortunately, this is just way too light for me. It just, since it's so light, it almost just looks chalky on my skin tone. I would be curious in trying out like one of the deeper shades, but yeah, for shade purposes, this is the other one and the only one that will be getting decluttered. So there you have it. There are all of the blushes that are both staying and leaving my collection. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you guys would like to see more of these videos on other portions of my collection. As always, thank you so much for spending part of your day with me. If you haven't already, I would love if you subscribe. That way you don't miss out on any future content. You can always come and hang out more over on IG stories with me. And yeah, that's it. I hope you guys have a great day and I will see you next time. Bye.